Welcome back to Books and Beer. We are at Green Bus yet again. We love it here. We're going to stay for a while.
Wonderful place.
Wonderful place.
They're going to start charging us rent.
Probably. They haven't found you in the basement yet?
Well, they're going to now. Thanks a lot.
Sorry. Okay, so today we've got the Scotty Doesn't Know. It's a Scottish 60, which is kind of like a light Scottish ale. It has a nice depth of flavor, and it is not as light as they would have you think, so...
Not quite as much, but still goes down pretty smooth.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Well, by the way, who did that song again?
Scotty Doesn't Know.
Yeah,
Scotty Doesn't Know.
Who did that? There was a song that had that in it. Ooh.
I think it was Eurotrip.
Okay.
Was it Eurotrip? Was it Scott Pilgrim?
Okay.
It was probably Eurotrip.
Okay. Cool.
Anywho, you want to go first today?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So, we got a Scottish ale here, so I thought this would be a nice opportunity to dive into Scotland itself. So I've got right here, it's very, very self-explanatory. It's a little book of Scottish folk and fairy tales. And I don't know how familiar you all are with the folklore of Scotland, but it's bananas, man. Like okay, so I spoiled it for you a little bit.
Yeah,
I told you what the very first story in this book is called, but do you know, or what it's about, but do you know what it's called?
What is it called?
It's called The Milk White Dew.
Okay.
The story, by the way, is about a man who marries, who loses his first wife, marries again, and his second wife murders his son with a hammer and makes him into a soup.
Milk White Dew.
Yeah.
Ew.
You know, something you may or may not know about me. I did stand-up for a time. And a good friend of mine, who was another comedian, was of Scottish heritage. And he said that he had this bit about how he always wanted to be able to have this sort of Irish reputation. Because Irish people were, he's like, oh, all their folk songs are really depressing, but they're told with such upbeat energy that it makes you just want to have a good time. And
then we all got murdered.
Yes. And he's like, Scottish advice, on the other hand, is something like, remember, always deep fry your breakfast. It may not sound healthy.
Also a good tip for the South.
Oh, exactly. It may not sound healthy, but you'll be glad you have the extra calories when your stepfather leaves you on a hunting trip.
Oh, dear God.
That one's for you, Condra.
God.
So yeah, if you just want some really great bedtime stories, just pick up this little volume right here.
Little volume of nightmares.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Well, I have something I've been waiting to do for a very long time, and that is present a full slate of just Highland Romances with our Scottish ale. They're all by Mary Wine because they're all a series, actually. It's like kind of a series similar to like Bridgerton's, where every little side character ends up getting a book.
Like the Marvel Universe.
Kind of, that way too.
Okay.
Black Widow's coming out soon. So this is 3 of the books. The first one is called Highland Spitfire.
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 Ooh, that's nice.
Alis Robertson and Bayek MacPherson
Love that.
are thrust together in an alliance which turns into love. This is a major theme in like a lot of Highland romances.
Like political alliance?
Yeah, political alliance. For the good of the clans, we must stop feuding. We must marry these 2 people. They hate each other for a very long time, and then, uh-oh, I have feelings for you now.
Oh, the old Scottish tsundere.
Ah, yes.
I just really outed myself by saying that term. But
yeah, you too. It was an entertaining read. It's one of the better written Highland romances I've ever read, and I've read a lot of them. It's actually one of the better, more historically researched ones, too. There's a lot of details about Scottish and English alliances and enemies. Scotland and Ireland are like frenemies for a very long time in the 1500s.
okay.
And it has a lot of that in there.
Were they just united by a hatred of Britain?
Well, no, Britain loved itself.
Yeah.
Britain always loves itself.
Yeah.
But during this time, there's a king regent always instead of a king, because the kings and queens of Scotland are always like orphaned as children, like as tiny little babes. So you have these power-hungry grabs and always trying to make nice with England, but at the same time still maintain control of Scotland. It's a lot, and they pack it a lot into the series, but that's the first one. Alliance turned love.
Nice. Good place to start.
Good place to start.
All right. My next pick is something that a lot of people might already be familiar with. This is a graphic novel series called Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
This is, some of you may have not read it, but you may have seen the movie that came out a few years back starring Michael Cera, whom I just kind of bear an unfortunate resemblance to.
What'd you find in there?
I think I was just looking for my self-esteem.
Oh.
But anyway.
Very similar theme here.
So, but for those of you who don't know, Scott Pilgrim is a very self-aware, fourth wall breaking a little bit. Not quite as much as Deadpool, but it's there.
Yeah.
Very video game reference heavy. Its whole aesthetic is very video games. A little bit of manga in there too. I know the author was a big manga fan. Actually, real quick tip though, if you want to check this out after hearing the pitch, this one I have right here is the color version. See if you can get that if you can, because one thing for as many things as this series does well, one thing that holds it back a bit is in the regular black and white version, it is very hard to tell some of the characters apart. They all have pretty similar aesthetics and are hard to differentiate when they're black and white like that. But anyway, in addition to all the video game stuff, it is very celebratory of the indie scene, which of course is why they had Michael Cera star in it. But yeah, it's really funny. It's just very, I just love things that are self-aware. But I also like, if you haven't read this before, just a bit of a heads up, our main character, Scott Pilgrim, he's a bit of a scumbag. Or at least he starts off that way. So be prepared for just a few kind of moments. But he gets better.
It's a slow build.
It's a slow build, but he does get better. Also, the movie only covers a very little bit of the actual graphic novel. So if you want to get more, if you like that story and want to see a lot more, just read the books.
Speaking of slow builds, Highland Vixen, featuring Helen Grant and Marcus McPherson, who is the bastard brother of Bag McPherson from this first book. Bastard brother? That doesn't work. Half-brother, bastard to their sire, who is the Leonard of the McPherson clan. There should be a family tree, I'm telling you.
I was just wondering whether or not we can say that.
We're going to try.
Okay.
Anyway, so Marcus McPherson is the war chief of the clan.
Okay.
I'm just using her vocabulary. Anyway, it came out in 2017. Anyway, it's probably bad vocabulary by now. Helen Grant is someone he stole from a neighboring clan to make sure that they didn't. Yeah, I know, it's a weird premise. Stole and then forced into servitude for their clan, and it's a servant turned love interest theme, which again is very popular in the Highland Romances. And Regency Romances for that matter in England. It's always a strong-willed woman, of course, who is trying to break out of this servitude role because women are stronger and smarter and, still more, generally better. Capable. Thank you. Generally more capable than perceived by all the men in this time period. And frankly, now half the time today, too.
Yeah.
But, so it's this woman, she manages to escape, he runs after her, and it's a long story that actually starts in this one, but ends in this, and anyway, it's just strong-willed women, servant turned lover turned wife.
There's a lot of blank turned, well, I guess that's just the story of love in general.
Yeah.
It'd be weird if you start as lovered.
Yeah, it would be.
Just as soon as you met.
Yeah. Although I guess there are books that have. There are some Regency romances that have the mistress turned wife as well. So could go either way. Anyway, so servant turned love.
Cool. I'm interested to see what the last one here is. Now, something else I think of when I hear Scotty is Star Trek, as I'm sure many of you out there also do. Now, I'm about to alienate a big portion of our audience. I've never really cared for it.
I mean, I'm a Star Wars girl myself.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't have anything against it per se. It's just not quite my cup of tea.
Mm.
But something I've always been fascinated by is the character Spock and his relationship with Captain Kirk, and also the relationship between the two of them. And so my last pick here is called Leonard, My 50-Year Friendship with a Remarkable Man by William Shatner. I have always been very fond of stories of friendship and just the very concept of friendship in big epics like that, because I like the way that friendship tends to take huge concepts and kind of bring them to a small human point.
Yeah.
And I really love the friendship between these guys. It reminded me of an interview that I saw with the two of them several years ago. I think William Shatner used to have he had a short-lived interview show, and I don't remember what it was called, but he had one. And Leonard Nimoy was on one of the episodes, and he brought up something very personal that he had gone through, that I guess Shatner either hadn't known that much about or maybe hadn't thought about in a long time. But after Leonard explained it, William, this is burned into my head. Shatner just goes, "Oh, Leonard," and it was just like, oh man, I felt that. Oh man,
Bone chilling.
So this is it's a really just a heartwarming read. I would highly recommend it.
Okay, I'm glad you're excited for this last book because it has one of the best titles.
Okay.
Between
Love
a
titles.
Highlander and a Hard Place. I've got to say, Highland Romances just really have some of the best titles. I think the last book I talked about was Plaid to the Bone, and it was
that's awesome.
several episodes.
Down. Wow.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
So, oh my goodness. You really should just go start a dance somewhere. Between a Highlander and a Hard Place, secondary characters in these books, Athena Traps and Simon Grant. Athena Traps, like any English girl, she gets invited to a house of this guy who is contracted to her to be married. Mm-hmm. And he's like, ha ha ha, I don't want to actually marry you. I want to make you your mistress. And he's just not taking no for an answer.
Okay.
So she sets his house on fire.
As they often do.
Yeah. So she sets his house on fire and runs.
Awesome.
But she ends up plotting with her uncle to steal away to Scotland. She gets into some mischief there and eventually has to be rescued by Leonard Grant, Simon Grant. Mm-hmm. This is one of those thematic books where Simon's first wife died in childbirth, so he's a little afraid to love again because he doesn't want to put a woman through that kind of burden again. That's actually a very common theme in Highland and Regency romances. Yeah.
It's a theme that I haven't heard very often. Yeah,
it's actually very surprising because I think it kind of comes down to was there love between that original relationship, and a lot of times in that period it's more, is this for the good of both families? Should we get married? Yes, we shall produce an heir. So he's kind of just trying to get past his previous marriage, but he falls in love with Athena. Okay. This one gets a lot into English and Scottish courting customs, which is kind of fascinating in their own right, and how they're similar and how they're different. Yeah, and through all of these, there is a lot of royal interference in what's happening here. A lot of this during a time period, I think it's the 1570s, 1580s, mm-hmm. There's a lot of unrest in Scotland and then in Scotland between England. So they're trying to make alliances in England and make alliances between clans to stop clan feuding. So through all of this series, there's just a lot of people doing puppet work from the crown, and it's... Doing what? I just wanted to see you do that again. Yeah, that'll be the screenshot for the next post. But anyway, those are my books. I highly recommend. They're all on Hoopla. I got no strings to hold me down to make me... That's more Irish. Yeah, there you go. These are all on Hoopla, both in ebook and audiobook form. So take your pleasure. Go for one of them. And go for some of these hardback books. Are these all from the Madison Library? Can you get them transported to other branches? Nightmares, Fun, Feels. There you go. Oh, man. You are ready with that. Anyway, so we hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check out these books, and we will see you next time. Bye.